Oh, there we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I want to use this mic because it's a better mic, but I'm not sure how good it is at picking me up over here. So if I go back here, how good can you hear me? Oh, you can't hear me. Okay, so that's bad. So this mic is not good for far away. Well, okay, good to know. Well, then I'm going to pull this out. Okay, let's see here. All right, can you hear me now? Okay. Kind of. It's not as good as the mic, is it? Well, so back here, though, you can still hear me? Okay. Oh, well, let's see what we can do with this built-in mic. Anyways, thank you all for coming. If you can turn on your cameras, that would be awesome. And let's see here. Oh, we have a vote to use the mic. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm going to be at the whiteboard a lot tonight because of the games. So if you can't hear me at the whiteboard, I guess we'll have to stick with the built-in mic. But, if you're willing, put your name and where you're at tonight in the chat. Just curious where everybody's coming from. Totally optional, of course. And let me explain what we're going to be doing. So my name is Ben Olson. I'm one of the co-founders of LSAT Demon. I've been teaching the LSAT for 15 years, which is kind of crazy to think about at this point, but it's so cool to be here tonight and see you guys because it's crazy where everything started and where things are today, right? So when I first started teaching the LSAT, it was in person, it was in class. There was only one person in my first class, actually. And for the first 10 years, it was like all in person. I was handing out practice problems, official LSAT problems, paper, right? It was like I put together a stack of LSAT questions and it's like, here, go do this for homework. And the challenge with that was that, half the class would find those challenges too hard and half the class would find those challenges too easy. And it was like, there's got to be a better way. And the demon was the ultimate outcome of that. Like, let's figure out how we can give practice problems to people that are just right at their skill level. And so that was one thing. And then the other thing was, class was 3 hours a night once a week, or maybe 3 hours a night twice a week. And everybody came to the same class. And it was like everybody pack in a room and do LSAT questions together. But now we can have all these different classes and you can kind of go to classes that are at your skill level or on topics that you want to work on. I just feel like this is 20 times better than what I was doing for like 10 years. So it's exciting to see you all tonight. Thanks for coming. I know that random history probably isn't super interesting to you, but it's just crazy to see where everything has come. Okay, so the plan tonight is to do 2 logic games. Depending on how long we go through the first one, we'll see if we can get to the second one. But my main goal is to help you understand worlds. How many people here have heard us talk about worlds? Okay, cool. Here's the idea behind worlds, and if that doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry, you'll see it in action. But anytime you take a rule that the LSAT gives you in the logic games, anytime you take a rule and you bake it into your diagram, as opposed to just drawing it as a separate, isolated rule, every time you bake it into your diagram, you're effectively creating worlds, okay? And so what we're trying to do is get better and better at taking the rules that they're giving us and baking them into the diagram as opposed to creating a separate drawing just for that individual rule. Now, to be clear, I've been doing separate individual rules for years, all the way back to when I started teaching the LSAT. But, and I did worlds every now and then. We've just come to realize that worlds are more effective than what we thought. And applicable in way more situations than we thought, right? So tonight, I'm almost certain we're going to use worlds, or at least try to create worlds in the games that we do. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, it will make sense as I go through the game. But I'm going to give you 10 minutes or so to do this game on your own. The first game, let's see, what is the first game? I don't even know. Oh, it's History Project. Test 78. Do you guys see that on the syllabus? Okay, good. We're going to give you 10 minutes to do that game. And then I will start setting it up myself, and you guys can ask questions and we can work through it, right? Of course, 90% of doing well in the games is doing well on the setup. So most of our time will be going over how do you set this game up so that you can then just really go through the questions extraordinarily fast, okay? Couple things before we do that. I do want to say, if you guys are willing to provide feedback, just go to the class page, click on the stars. I don't care if it's 1 star. What I do care about is what did you guys like about this class? What did you hate about this class? The written feedback that we get through that field is really helpful, right? It comes right to us and then we say, okay, let's make this class better. The other thing is, if you're a live subscriber, on Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern, I'm going to do a class on productivity. I'm pretty excited. It's only 30 minutes. So if you can find 30 minutes, I'm pretty dang confident that you will get something out of that class that will be worth your time. That's my goal, at least. Of course, again, if not, you can say 1 star, stop doing this stupid class. Okay, cool. Anyways, let's go ahead and do that first game. Just give it your best shot. The fastest way to learn is to fail, right? Fail forward. Have you guys heard that? So just give it your best, and then we will talk about it together in 10 minutes. Good luck. Okay, so that was about 10 minutes. If you're not done, don't worry. But let me know in the chat. Was that easy, medium, hard? Are you feeling good about life? Not so good. Okay, so lots of easy, medium to hard, hard. Okay. Let's talk about it. I am going to show you what I do to set it up. This is test 78 game 2. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to just read and try to understand the game. I didn't do this for the longest time. For the longest time when I was setting up games, I would read a rule and then I would draw it. It was like, you know, it was habit. It was a reaction. I just read the rule and I drew it. But because Worlds is so valuable and really depends on your holistic understanding of the game first, I think it's much easier just to try to read through this setup and try to understand it, and on some level relax, right? Your job is to relax and just take it in. Like, okay, what's going on here? So let's see. 4 students will be assigned to a history project in which they will search archives from the years 1921, 1922, 1923, and 1924. Okay, so I know I'm dealing with 4 students in 4 years. Each of the 4 years will have exactly 1 student assigned to it. Okay, that makes things really easy. I got 4 students, 4 years, and 1 student per year. 6 students, okay, this is a little bit of a twist. 6 students, L, M, O, R, T, and Y, are available for this project. Okay, I'm going to keep reading, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking, wow, this sounds a little bit like an ordering game, right? Because you have 1921 all the way to 1924. Whenever the LSAT is dealing with numbers, those are inherently orderable, right? You can order them. So I'm thinking ordering. I'm also thinking, wait a sec, you are going to assign 4 students, but you're giving me 6 students who are available. That means that this game is also probably going to have some in-out elements. In other words, there are going to be people who are in and there are going to be people who are out. Specifically, there are going to be 4 people who are in and there are going to be 2 people who are out or not chosen for the project. Sound good? But I haven't written anything down yet. Okay. Yell at me if this doesn't make sense. The first rule says only L or T can be assigned to 1923. That's a pretty straightforward rule. So, okay. Now we have a bunch of if rules. The first one, if Molly is assigned to the project, okay, if she's one of the 4 who actually works on it, then she must be assigned to either 1921 or 1922. Okay, so really Molly only has 3 choices, right? She can be 1921, 22, or out, right? Okay, if Tiffany is assigned to the project, then Ryan must be assigned to the project. All right, Tiffany needs Ryan, but Ryan doesn't need Tiffany. So if Ryan is assigned to the project, this doesn't tell me anything about Tiffany. It just says, look, if Tiffany is there, Ryan's got to be there as well. The last rule, if Ryan is assigned to the project, then O must be assigned to the year immediately prior to Ryan's. Okay, so notice these last 2 rules connect to each other. If Tiffany comes into the project, Ryan's going to have to come into the project. And by the way, so is O, and O is going to have to be immediately before R. Sound good? Okay, so of all these people, is there any one of these individuals you'd like to focus on first? One of these individuals who's knowing what they're going to do is likely to have a decent impact on everyone else. Okay, well, I see votes for lots of different variables, which is totally reasonable. For whatever reason, I am gravitating toward T because I see T in the first rule, and T has to be in 1923 or well, it's limited, right? It's either L or T. And then we have this thing where if you know that T is in, then you know that R is in, which means you know that O is in, and you know that O is next to R. So knowing T being in seems to affect the very last rule and the first rule, and T being out, well, none of that happens. But that itself could be interesting. So I guess I'm leaning towards T, but there's no right answer here, right? I see people saying, I see some people saying, hey, I want to focus on T or L, which makes sense, right? You're looking at the first rule and you're saying, hey, I'm going to create worlds on the basis of the first rule. Either L is in 23 or T is in 23, and that's totally fine. You could create two worlds on the basis of that. Sometimes I like to go even simpler, and I just like to think, okay, which individual variable, T or L or M by itself do I want to start with, right? We're picking one of these people, and we're gonna, instead of drawing these rules as individual rules, I'm gonna take this person, I'm gonna focus on Tiffany. You can focus on Molly if you want, or Ryan, but I'm going to take Tiffany and I'm going to focus on her, and I'm going to say, okay, what are my options for Tiffany? And then based on that, start drawing what would happen in the actual diagram as opposed to the actual rules. All right. So I hope that's not crazy. You guys okay? Let me start with this. I know that we have 4 people in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4. This is 1921 to 1924. And I know that 2 people are going to be out. So I'll just put them here. I'm focusing on Tiffany. She's either going to be assigned to the project or she's not going to be assigned to the project, right? Actually, well, okay. This is I am gonna I'm gonna think about this for a second. This either does have to be L or T. So after my whole speech about like focusing in on one person, this is such an easy rule. I'm gonna correct myself and focus on this for a half second. This has to be L, right? Or it has to be T. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So this is very simple. Those are the only 2 options, right? Are you guys okay with that? That's the only way this game can go. Either L has to be here or T has to be here. Now I'm going to go to the thing that I was most attracted to, which is Tiffany. And I'm going to say, okay, well, what's up with Tiffany? In this diagram, right, here are my only 2 options. In this diagram, T is definitely in. And if T is in, we know that Ryan is in. And if Ryan is in, we know that R is immediately before Ryan, right? So in this diagram, where is R and O? Okay, it's going to be ORT, right? Yeah, I see some of you saying that in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and put OR here. Now, in this diagram, I don't have T, right? And I'm focusing on T right now. So I'm going to ask myself, okay, well, what could happen? Either T can be in, right? Or T can be out. So I'm going to create those 2 diagrams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 4. So I'm taking this world right here and I'm splitting it into 2 worlds. L is still in third. In one world, T is out, right? In one world, T is out. This is my out group. And in one world, T is in. Now, if T comes in, I don't necessarily know where it goes, but what do we know must be true when T is in? O and R have to come in, and they have to come in together, right? So the only place that they can go is right here. So in this world, T is out, but in this world, T is in, which means O and R has to come in, and it has to come in there. You guys okay with this? Now, I'm also saying that T is in, so that means T has to go here, okay? Now, one thing that happens in an in-out setup is when you have an in-group and an out-group, if you ever fill up the out-group or if you ever fill up the in-group, you now know everybody else has to go to the other group. So who else do we have left in this game? We have Y, right? And we have somebody else, M, Y and M. So they have to go out. Okay. Are you guys okay with that world right there? All right, let's keep going. So I think I dealt with T. Right, let me just double check this. If T, I dealt with what would happen if T is in, and if T is out, well, the rule doesn't say anything, right? It says if T is assigned to the project, then it tells me what will happen with R and O, but it doesn't tell me what will happen when T is not assigned to the project. So I don't have to worry about those last two rules, or at least the third rule at this point. Okay, we already dealt with the first rule. The L or T has to be third, so that's gone. So I think, what am I going to do? Oh, you know, I think I'll deal with the second rule. The second rule is kind of nice. It says that if Molly is assigned to the project, then she must be assigned to either 21 or 22. Okay, so we have three worlds at this point. This world is complete, so I never have to worry about that one again. But let's start with this one. What does the second rule tell us about this world? Okay, I see some people saying that Molly is out. Yes, right? Molly either has to be here or out. And so in this diagram, Molly has to be out. Okay. We already have Ryan assigned to the project. We already have O assigned to the project. So that means there are only 4 rules in this game, right? I've dealt with the first rule. I've dealt with the second rule. I've dealt with the third rule because R and O come in, and I've dealt with the fourth rule. When you've addressed all the rules of the game in your setup, then that means that all the variables that are left are free to do whatever they want. Okay, so in this world, who's left? We have Y, yes, and L. So I'm just going to go ahead and write L right here and Y right here. And then I'm going to put an arc between them because I don't know which one's in and I don't know which one's out. I'm feeling really good about this game because this world is done, right? Nothing is going to happen with this world. This world is done, in my opinion. We have all the variables in it. So these 2 worlds are done. The only thing I have to left is I have to deal with this, right? So what do we have left? I know that Molly has to be here or out. I also know, well, maybe I could, you know what, I'm going to deal with the last rule, because the last rule is very strong, right? It says if R is in, O and R have to be together. So if R is in, right, then it's going to have to be OR here, right? Or R is out. So there's only 2 possibilities for R. Either R is in or R is out. And if R is in, then I know OR has to go right here. We all okay with that? So I'm going to create 2 worlds. I'm going to take this world and I'm going to split it. Okay, so everything about this world is exactly the same, but I'm going to do one where R is out and I'm going to do one where R is in. So when R is in, I know it's got to go here. That's OR. And when R is out, well, it goes there. Okay. Now, T and R are both in the out group. That's great news because that means everybody else has to come in, right? But this one's actually even easier to finish up. What do I know in this world up here? Any rule? Who's left at this point? Yeah, M is out. Okay, I see people saying M is out. M can't go here, so M has to go out. which actually forces y to come in. Okay. All right. So last world that we're dealing with is right here. Who is in? M is in. What do I know about M? M has to be in the first or second slot, right? So I'm going to put M here. Okay. And it's going back and forth with something. What is it going back and forth with? Who's left at this point? Okay, Y or O. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. And that's exactly right. So I can go ahead and put Y/O, Y/O. So I don't know which slot M is going to be in, but it's going back and forth here. And then I don't know where Y or O goes because I've already dealt with all the other rules. I've dealt with the first rule in this slot. I've dealt with the second rule in this slot. I've dealt with Tiffany because she's out. And I've dealt with Ryan because he's out. So this world right here has the most flexibility. Random bonus question here. How many different ways, you don't need to do this on the actual test. This is just a test of your understanding of what's going on here. How many different ways can these folks be ordered? How many different ways can this game, unfold? How many different possible scenarios are there? Okay, I have some guesses here. It looks like some people are saying 7, 6, 8, 4. Okay, well, we'll have to figure it out. Let's start. This world right here, how many different options are there? Obviously 1, right? We're cool with that, okay? How many different options are there for this world? 2, okay? So I got 1. Let's just do 1 in a box, 2 in a box. How many different options for this? Hopefully you're catching on. This is just 1. So the 1 option here. How many different options are there in this world? Okay, I have votes for 3, 4, 3. Okay, so take a look at this. M can go here. If M goes here, how many different ways can this go down? 2, right? Because it's either going to be YO or OY, right? Now, if M goes here, how many different ways can it go down? Same thing. It could be OY or YO. So there's 2 and 2, which is 4. So there are 4 different ways this diagram can be set up. Okay, so in total we have 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 8, right? There are 8 different setups for this game. Like I said at the beginning, you don't need to figure that out, but I wanted to figure that out because I want to tell you something about these games. The vast majority have somewhere between like 6 and 12 different scenarios, and that's it, right? Like usually when people read the rules, they read the rules and in their head, they're like, wow, these variables could be arranged in so many different ways. I'll just keep track of the rules and then I'll, answer the questions one at a time. The reality is you can solve the entire system very quickly with worlds, and then it doesn't matter what question they ask you. There's only 8 different ways it can go down and you have all of them in front of you. Okay, so usually what happens with worlds is if you spend, let's say, 8 minutes on a game, or 6 minutes or whatever, you might spend anywhere from 50% to maybe even 75, 80, 90% of your time on the setup. You're spending all this time setting up, and then the questions themselves, they just go really fast. And that's what I'm hoping will happen with this game as well once we start going into the questions. But I really can't see how you could get messed up in the questions now that you see all the different ways this game can go. You have it all in front of you. Okay, someone asks, what's the most number of worlds in an LSAT question? Well, there are some games that can have like over 100 different scenarios, okay? So in that case, we're not going to complete all the worlds. Those are usually ordering games that involve linking a bunch of ordering rules together. But for the vast majority of games, it's anywhere between 6 and 12, maybe 14. Okay. How you guys feel about all this? You okay? Haven't lost any souls yet? Okay, to the dark side. Let's go ahead and see how quickly we can answer these questions. I'll start with question 6. It says, which one of the following could be an accurate assignment of students in order from earliest year to the latest? You could solve this question in one of two ways. We've just figured out the entire system, so you could just go down these answers and look for one that works here. It's also fairly easy to just apply individual rules to this first question. So for example, L or T has to be third. That's going to get rid of A. If Molly's in, she's 1 or 2. That's going to get rid of, that's going to get rid of E, right? Because Molly is last. The third rule, if T is in, R is in, that's going to get rid of B because we don't have R with T. And the last rule, O and R, if R is in, you have to have O and R together. That's going to get rid of D. So now we're left with C, right? So for this first question, we can use the worlds, but I do find it often easier just to grab the individual rules. Okay, so the answer is C there. Let's go to the next question, question number 7. Molly must be assigned to 2. I know it says 1922, but I'm just going to say 2. If which one of the following is true? Okay, so what's going to force Molly into 2? Well, this world doesn't have Molly in. This world doesn't have Molly in. This world doesn't have Molly in. So this is the only world in which Molly could be 2. And what would force Molly to go into slot 2? You can predict the answer here, right? This is what's so cool about worlds. One answer is that Y is first. Another answer is that O is first. If Y or O goes first, then Molly has to go second. You guys cool with that? Okay, so is there anything that says which one of the following is assigned? Okay, so if L is to 4, then no, that's not going to work. O is to 1. Oh, you know what? There's a problem with this answer. I actually thought, well, if O goes here, then M has to go here. But that's only if you're in this world. I'm looking at this. These all have O here. So knowing that O is in 1 doesn't necessarily tell you that M is in 2. So that's actually not going to work. C, O is in 4. That doesn't help because where's Y? Where's M? T is in 3. Again, that's not even this world. Y is in 1. Okay, if Y is in 1, then M has to go here, and we know we're in this world because none of these worlds have Y in 1. So the answer is E. You guys okay with that? Okay, let's keep going. Question number 8. If both R and Y are assigned to the project, which one of the following could be true? Okay, R and Y are in. That's not this world. That's this world. That's not this world. That could be this world. So I'm looking at these two worlds right now, right? Either this one or this one. What could be true? Okay, could L be assigned to 23? Yeah, it could. Here, okay. I'm pretty dang confident about that. I might pick that and move on. It's not too hard to check the rest though. So could M be 1? No, it can't. Could O be 2? No, it can't. It has to be first. Could T be 4? No, something else does. Could Y be 2? No, R has to be 2. Right? So the answer is definitely A. Boom. Okay, let's keep going. Let's see, question 9. How many of the students are there who could be the one assigned to 2000 or 1921? Okay, well, O could be there. Obviously, O could be there. M could be there, and Y could be there. So M, Y, O. The answer is 3. Sound good? Okay, we'll keep going. Question 10. If Y is not assigned to the project, so if Y is out, not here, not here, here and here. These two worlds, Y could go out. So I'm looking over here. Which one of the following could be true? Could L be not assigned? No, actually L is in here, and if Y is out, then L is in here. So that could not be true. Could R be out? No, R has to be in. Could T be out? No, T has to be in. Could O be in 22? No, it has to be in 21. Could L be in 24? Yes. Y could go, wait, R and, yeah, Y is not assigned to the project. So Y goes out and L comes in. The answer could be E. Well, it is E because it could be true. Okay. Let's keep going. Last one, 11. Which one of the following students cannot be assigned to 22? Okay, well, we know that R can be assigned to 22. And we know that M, Y, and O can be assigned to 22. So R is out, M, Y, and O are out. So that only leaves L, which makes sense because L is here, 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 or here. So, or out, which means, yeah, L can't be 22. Anyways, I hope what this illustrates is that, yeah, you might take a decent chunk of your time up front setting it up, but it doesn't matter at this point what they ask you because you have the answer, right? Salma, go ahead. What's your question?
I've been told that whenever there is conditionals to always make the contrapositive and to keep that in mind. Am I mistaking that for like logical reasoning? Should we do that when we have if-then statements for logic games? Write down the contrapositive?
No, so I wouldn't worry about it. I used to write down the contrapositives all the time, and then I kind of stopped doing it because it wasn't necessary, but I kept writing the if-then statements down. But notice we didn't even write the original if-then statement here, right? We didn't write, oh, okay, well, if M is assigned, okay, if M is in, then oh, M has to be here. Like we didn't even use any like if-then arrows, right, for any of these rules. We just drew them into the diagram. It's just way easier that way. Honestly, the whole LSAT daemon is a contrapositive free zone. So you just never have to worry about it again. There's really only two things you have to think about. Has the if clause been triggered? In other words, for the second rule, it says if Molly is assigned to the project. So the question is, has Molly been assigned to the project? If so, then I'm going to keep reading about the rule. If not, then the rule is dead and I just do not care about it. I don't care about its contrapositive. It doesn't tell me anything about what happens when Molly is not assigned to the project. And if you can look at if-then statements that way, like, okay, either the rule is triggered, Molly is assigned to the project, or the rule is not triggered because she's not assigned to the project, then that's all you ever have to think about and you'll be totally fine. I hope that's helpful. I know it goes against so many other preparation books and so forth out there, but I really think they're wrong, unfortunately, on that front.
So I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Stefania. Hi, nice to meet you.
Yes, likewise.
So I recently came across a game where it appeared that the only way to solve the game was to be able to figure out the contrapositive. So would you say that in your experience doing all the games using worlds that you've literally never had to use the contrapositive to solve the game?
Yeah, you don't need it. I know, it's great. I mean, trust me, I did it like all myself when I took the LSAT, and then after I was teaching, it was like almost like day one. It was like, okay, you really got to understand if-then statements. You got to understand the contrapositive. But the reality is, it's so much easier and requires less mental bandwidth, right? To actually just deal with every if-then statement as a simple, okay, has the if clause been triggered or has it not been triggered? And then go from there. And that's what we did tonight. We said, okay, well, okay, either T is in or it's out. Either the rule has been triggered or it hasn't. And you can do that everywhere.
Okay.
So It's just easier. It's another way. That's all it is. And it's not one that's actively really taught, I don't think. But we, even ourselves, I think we kind of fell in, well, I don't know if we fell into it, we progressed into it, because at first when I was teaching worlds, maybe 7 years ago, it was like, hey, you know, you can use this 25% of the time or 20% of the time. Now it's like, actually do this every time. And there might be some exceptions, but those are the rare exceptions. So everything's really flipped.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay. Kenza, go ahead and ask your question, and Stella, you're next.
Hi, Ben. I had a question about question 7. So
Yeah.
according to the worlds that we made, where M could be in 1 and Y or O in 2, and
Yeah.
those are interchangeable. So
Yeah.
I was a little confused, because if Y or O could be in 1 and M could be in 2, why isn't O also the answer?
Yeah, no, that was my prediction. I was like, oh, look, if Y or O is in 1, then M has to be in 2. Yes, in this world only. But the question just says, hey, which one of the following, if it were true, would force M into 2, right? And if O is in 1, I actually don't even know if I'm in this world, or like I could be in any of these worlds, right? I could be here. And if O is in 1, that doesn't force M into 2. In fact, M is out.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Whereas when Y is in 1, this is the only world you could possibly be in.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Great. Yep. Stella.
Yeah, hi. I have a question about worlds.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, how do you tell in which games you want to make worlds and which games you don't make worlds?
The default assumption is that you're going to do worlds in every game. At the very least, you're going to try. And one thing to keep in mind here is this is something that Nathan just started pushing, maybe even just like 3 weeks ago. I mean, we ourselves are like, you know, as you teach it, you become more and more aware of what's actually going on here. And that is that anytime you write a rule into the diagram, as opposed to outside the diagram, you are creating worlds. So when the rule says, let's think of an even easier game, right? If the rule said, hey, H is second, right? I don't know of any LSAT company that doesn't say, do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, H is second. They have you put the rule into the diagram, right? That's creating worlds. If you did this, if you said, oh, H equals second, and by the way, actually, there are some books. I think it's like Barron's or something like that. They might actually tell you to write stuff like this, which is insane. But if you wrote down the rule literally like this, well, then you're not creating worlds, right? You're like, all you're doing is you're creating a semi-visual version of each individual rule. But anytime you take the rule and you put it inside your diagram, you're on the path to creating worlds, because this is a world. This is the world in which H is in second. Now, it turns out that all the scenarios in this game will have H in second, but that's the beginning. So in every game, you're doing it on some level. It's just like, okay, keep going, take it further.
That makes sense. I just have a question, because I recently saw games in which I don't remember which game, but like there were like lots of conditionals, like mostly all conditionals.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, like, the conditionals don't link up, and like it's also, they don't like neatly divide the games into 2 scenarios like this games.
Well, in fact, yeah, the fact that they don't, so games that have a lot of conditionals are almost always in-out games, and they even lend themselves to worlds even more, right? Because what can happen in that situation is, let's say you have a rule that says if Q is selected, then T is not selected, right? And then you have another random rule, if R is selected, then Z is selected. You're like, hey, these things, they don't link together, and it's a bunch of if-then statements, and I need you to write them down like this. No, you don't need to write them down like this. I did that for years, but you don't. You can just say, okay, I'm going to focus, and this is the key, I'm going to focus on the if clause. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say there are two possibilities. Either Q is in or Q is out. And if Q is in, then I know something. I know that T is out. And if Q is out, then I don't know anything, but you do know something. You know the Q is out. So your two worlds would be one, Q is in and T is out. The other is Q is out, and that's it. And now you have two worlds, and you can start building off of these worlds. You can say, okay, well, this could be split into two worlds. Either R is in or R is out. And you could do that over here as well. It might sound like a lot of work, but that's the crazy thing, is that most games have far fewer scenarios than they appear to have on the surface. It like blew me away when I started creating these worlds all the time, and I was like, wow, there's only 8 possible ways this game can go down. It felt like 20 or 40 when I started. And when you start doing this, you're like, oh, well, actually that prevents this from happening and that prevents this from happening. So really there's only 14 different ways this game can go down. Now you probably wouldn't draw out 14 worlds like we did here. We had 8 scenarios, but we only had to draw 4 worlds to capture them all, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, just one last question on top of that.
Yeah.
So for example, like for games like the famous computer virus thing, then like how do you draw worlds for that game? Because to me, like it seems like it's really hard because one computer can link to 2 other computers.
You know, honestly, for that one, again, all you have to do is you have to pick a variable or a rule. You focus in on that and you say, okay, how many ways could this variable go down? How many different places can it go? And if you can find a variable that can only go in 2, 3, or 4 places, you focus on that one and you start creating worlds on the basis of that. And anytime you have rules, you have constraints, which means you can start creating scenarios or worlds on the basis of that.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. I'll take 2 more questions, Stephen and Jamar. Or
Mine's
Stefan.
a really quick.
Sorry.
Mine's
Yeah.
a really quick question. Going back to what you said just a minute ago, I always seem to have a hard time figuring out which element to start a world with.
Yep.
And you made the statement a few minutes ago to focus on the if clause. So is that where I should always start when I'm trying to figure out which element I'm going to use to make a world?
Not always, but it is a great opportunity because if clause always fall into 2 categories, right? Either the if clause is triggered or it's not. And so you can create almost always you can create 2 worlds on the basis of those 2 options. That said, when I was saying that, I was really saying that in reference to anytime you're dealing with an if then statement, then you want to focus on the if clause. Because what people do is they focus on the contrapositive and they get all like twisted around. It's like, hey, look, the only thing you have to think about is the if clause first and foremost when you're dealing with if then statements.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Jamar.
Yeah, this is Jamar. So I had a question specifically more so just about the time constraints.
Yep.
To each question, you have about 8 minutes and 45 seconds. You know, per question, per game. So how do you recommend like effectively diagramming each one of those worlds, especially in questions that have, like you said, maybe 12 to 14, just effectively diagramming those to get all questions.
For sure. So keep in mind, I'm not drawing out 14 worlds. Even here, we didn't draw out 8 scenarios. We drew out 4 worlds, and those 4 worlds captured the 8 scenarios that are embodied in this game, right? So if there are 14 possible ways the game can go down, or there are 14 possible scenarios, I may only need to create 5 worlds and capture them all, or even 4. Like sometimes, like the way these things can move around, it's like one world can capture several scenarios at once. So it's not necessarily the case that you're drawing lots of worlds. The other thing to keep in mind is you talked about 8 minutes and 45 seconds. Yes, that's true. That's how much time you have per game. But because it's just 35 minutes divided by 4. The reality is that as you get better and better at this, the easy games are the kind of thing that you're going to do in 4 to 5 minutes. So you're going to spend 3 minutes setting up your scenario, your worlds. You're going to spend a minute answering the questions, and then boom, you're done. You're on to the next game. But what that does mean is that you have 12 minutes, 14 minutes, whatever it takes for that random curveball game that they may throw at you in that section, right? So time, time is not as strict as you might think. The reality is that most of us should probably be doing 1 or 2 games in 35 minutes at the beginning of our LSAT studying, because I'd rather you do it right, get your swing right, and then start swinging faster, right? And your swing will just start to pick up. That's an analogy, obviously, but you will get faster naturally as you get better at mastering this process.
Okay, thank you. Makes sense.
Yep. Cool. Okay, great questions. Thank you, everyone. We got 30 minutes. We might not be able to go through all the questions, but we can probably set up the diagram for the next game. So go ahead and do this next game. I'll give you 10 minutes, and then we'll take some time to set up the worlds, if there are any. Presumably there are. And yeah, we'll go from there. Good luck. Okay, that was 10 minutes. I know this game is a little more challenging. This is one of those games that you kind of remember after doing it because it can throw you for a loop. But what'd you guys think? Easy, medium, hard? Let me know. Maybe you guys thought it was easy after all. That'd be great. Okay, hard at least so far. Medium, medium, hard. Decently easy. All right. Okay, good. Well, that's great. It's definitely a game that can be easy as you get better at this stuff, but it certainly starts out hard. Okay, so let's do it. This is test 65 game 4. It says, and again, I'm not gonna write anything down. My number one goal right now is to understand what the heck is going on. It says a television programming director, okay, is scheduling a 3-hour block of programs beginning at 1 p.m. So 3 hours of programming. So we're going to have something at 1, we're going to have something at 2, and we're going to have something at 3, and it's going to end at 4, right? Fair enough. Okay, the programs that are to fill this time block include an hour-long program called Generations. Sounds so fascinating. And 4 half-hour programs, Roman, Sundown, Terry, and Waterloo. Okay, RSTW. For just half a second there, I had to do the math. I was like, does that add up to 3 hours? But yeah, of course, if you have an hour-long program and 4 half-hour programs, which are 2 hours, it's 3 hours of programming. Okay, great. So I know that's kind of seems like easy and silly math, but I do want to make that clear in my head because I want to know, are we talking about all the programming, or is there going to be like some empty slots? Have they given us more shows than can actually fill the 3-hour block? But no, they've given us the exact programs that they're going to fit into this time frame. The programs will be shown one after the other. Okay, I guess I assumed that, but each program shown exactly once. Okay, I kind of assumed that as well. I'm glad I'm being told this because that would have been a bad assumption. Rule number 1, G starts on the hour rather than the half hour. Okay, so that means G is going to be from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, or 3 to 4, right? I mean, I'm going to read the rest of these rules, but that's sounding like a place where I should create worlds. Are you guys starting to see this? It's like there's only 3 options for G. It's either going to be the first hour, the second hour, the third hour. Okay, I don't know. Anyways, the next rule says T starts on the half hour rather than the hour. Okay, so T will be on the half hours. Fair enough. There's only 3 slots for that too. So I could do worlds based on the first rule or on the second rule. Equally interesting as far as I can tell. Although actually I like the first rule better. Any guess why? If I had to choose between the first rule and the second rule in which to create worlds, any guess why I'm leaning toward the first rule? Yeah, Carla says it's a bigger block. Yeah, Generations is going to take up that whole hour. So assuming or creating worlds on the basis of G seems like it could be slightly, mildly, maybe somewhat more helpful than T. I don't know, but let's take a look at these other rules. R is shown earlier than S. Okay, nice, not super helpful, but okay. And this last rule, if W is shown earlier than T, it is shown immediately before T. Okay, we were just talking about if-then statements, right? The only thing I care about is the if clause at first, right? And the if clause is saying if W is shown earlier than T, so if W comes before T, then what do I know? It's immediately before T. If W comes after T, what do I know? Nothing except for the fact that it comes after T, right? So either it's going to come before, and we know it's going to be immediately before T, or it's going to come after, and it can come anytime after. Okay, I'm gonna go with G because that's just the easiest thing, right? To create worlds on the basis of, because it's clear what the slots are, 1, 2, and 3. Sound good? How many people did worlds on the basis of G? Hey, how many people said, I don't care what you all just said, I am never doing worlds? Oh, no one's gonna raise their hand. Come on, there's 168 people here right now. It's gotta be somebody who's like, I am never doing this. Okay, anyways, let's take a look. So we got three hours, right? So really I need to do this. I need 1, 2, 3, right? Because those are my half-hour blocks. This is 1, 2, and 3. Are you guys cool with that? Okay, and then I'm gonna have 1, 2, and then. Okay, this is one thing I like to do with worlds. Whenever I create worlds, sometimes people they'll like put G up here, right? They're like, okay, G is in that first hour. Okay, cool. And then they start drawing a bunch of stuff up here. Don't do that. If you're gonna create worlds on the basis of G, do that first in all 3 worlds, right? It's like, okay, well, G is first in this world. It's in the second hour in this world. And it's in the third hour in this world. Right? If you do one world and you start messing with it and then you go to the second world, half the time you're gonna forget what your initial assumption was and you're gonna mess it up. So just say, okay, I'm splitting on G, 1, 2, 3. Now we can start dealing with these worlds. I'm gonna make these a little more consistent. Okay, T starts on the half hour rather than the hour. Well, that's pretty easy because in this world, right, T has got to be here or here. Are you guys cool with that? So I can bake this rule into this diagram. Now I could do one of 2 things. I could put T here and then have an arc going back and forth, but it seems helpful to me to know exactly where T is. So it's just one less thing to kind of keep in my head, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this world and I'm gonna split it. So 2 worlds now, they both have G in first, right? And I'm gonna put T here and T here. Are you okay with that? I'm using the top and bottom of this diagram for 2 separate worlds. Maddie, is that acceptable? Yes, I'm asking you. Good. I will take that as a yes. You have the eyebrow raised. Yeah, is that positive? That's like, yes. Okay, maybe. I'll
Just
interpret.
laughing because I do that too.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right, so then in this world, I'm going to do the same thing, right? Because T can go here or T can go here. Is anyone mad yet? Okay. Looks like Lindsay's still on board. All right, so then we're going to do that in the last world. Either T goes here or T goes here. Okay, so yeah, we have 6 worlds, but rules 1 and 2 are gone. Right? You never have to think about them again because they have both been baked into the diagram. Sound good? Okay, let's go to the third rule. R is shown earlier than S. I don't know that this is so helpful because, okay, well, R could be here or here. R could be here or here. I guess I don't know that I want to split these worlds again. So I'm going to see if the last rule, which deals with T and W. Well, W is not in here, but T is in here. So maybe the last rule will be more helpful. If W is earlier than T, then it is immediately before T. Okay, well, let's start here. If W is before T, then it's immediately before T. So it's going to go there, right? And if it's after T, then it's going to go somewhere over here. Question for you. In this first world, am I ever going to violate that rule? The rule says if W comes before T, then it's immediately before T. Otherwise, it can go anywhere after T. I hope this makes sense, but I can't break that rule in this first world, no matter how hard I try. Because if I put W before T, where am I going to put it? I'm going to put it right here. That's the only spot available for it because G is taking up this whole first hour, right? And if I put it after T, well, I don't care if I put it after T. It just can go anywhere after T. So if there's no way, are you guys okay with this? I know this can be a little confusing, but I guess what I'm trying to say here is if there's no way for you to violate a rule, if it's impossible for you to do so, then guess what? You don't have to think about that rule again, right? Because it's not something you're ever going to violate. You can't get it wrong. So why care about it, right? Now in this world, I could violate that rule because W, if it comes before T, which it is going to come before T, I have to put it immediately before T, right? So in this world, I'm going to put W here because there's only one option that has to come before T. And if it's going to come before T, then I know it's going to be immediately before T. Are you guys, you're on board with this? Okay, let's keep going. Here, same thing. If W comes before T, then it's going to go here. Otherwise, it's going to come after over here. There's no way for me to violate it, right? So I can just ignore it. Here, W has to come immediately before T, okay? Because that's the only option. It has to come before, so it's going to come immediately before. Here, again, if W comes here, fine. If it comes here, fine. So I can't violate the rule. But here, down here, W has to come immediately before T because it's definitely coming before T. That's the rule. We just applied the fourth rule, the last rule, to all the worlds. I didn't do anything in these worlds because I'm never going to violate the rule, so I never have to worry about it. Val.
So if you had put W right before T at 2 o'clock, are you saying that it violates? I don't see where it violates the rule.
Oh, are you talking about right here?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, so the last rule doesn't tell me that W is immediately before T. It just says, hey, if you end up putting W before T, then you better do it immediately before T.
Okay.
But the rule is a conditional, right? It's like if W is before T, what happens if W is after T? Well, it can go anywhere after. So I can't put W here because the rule isn't saying, oh, by the way, T is always immediately before W. It's just that if it ends up coming before T, it is going to go there. And if it doesn't, then it's going to come back here. In other words, I don't care where W goes. Either way, I'll be complying with that rule.
Yeah, it's not clear to me, I guess. So on the secondary diagram underneath, you put W before T because, was it because T was last?
Yes, T is last. So I don't have the option.
Okay.
There's two problems here. One, I don't have the option of W going after T. So I know it has to come before. And because I know it has to come before, then I know that if clause has been triggered, right? So now I got to put it right there. In this world, I could violate the rule, right? Like if I ignore that rule, I ignore it at my peril because W could go here. I could accidentally put it there and that would be wrong, right? So here I do have to actually apply the rule and it does apply. But here I don't have to apply it because I'm never going to violate it, however it goes down. Okay, so bottom line here, we took care of rule 1, we took care of rule 2, we took care of rule 4. The only rule left is that R is before S. What that means is that R is here or here, and then S is here or here. I'm going to actually draw this like this. W, R, S. So the circle means that W is a floater. W can go anywhere in this top diagram. And then RS has to go in this order. So if W goes here, I know it's going to be RS. If W goes here, I know it's going to be RS. And if W goes here, I know it's going to be RS. I'm just talking about that top world. Are you guys okay with that? I didn't want to take the time to draw out all the subworlds for that because I feel like this little thing right here can capture all of them pretty efficiently. And then I'm just done, right? Okay, down here, if R is before S, well, the only two places it can go are right here. You guys, that's easy enough, right? That's going to be true for this one and this one as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, RS, RS. And this little thing is going to be true for both of these as well. W can go anywhere, and then RS is just going to fall around it wherever it ends up going. Okay, so this is W, RS, and this is W, RS. Okay, that's the setup. There are six worlds here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bonus question, how many scenarios are there total for this game? Brittany, go ahead, question.
Yeah, for those top worlds, doesn't W have to be after T?
I don't think so. Why do you think it has to be after T?
Because it says if W is before T, then it must be WT. So it's not possible in those worlds for W, for instance, to be, right before T. It would have to be in those last two slots.
No, because look, if W is earlier than T, then it, referring to W, has to be immediately before T. So it could go right there and it would be immediately before it.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
It's almost like the rule flipped, I think, in your head. Okay.
Yeah.
Good question. We have a lot of people voting for 12. Let's see if this is right. So if W goes here, then it's going to be RS, right? So that's one scenario. If W goes here, then it's going to be RS. That's two scenarios. And if W goes here, it's going to be RS. That's three scenarios. Plus, of course, this scenario. So that's four scenarios. So I see 4, 4, 4. 4 times 3, of course, is 12. There are only 12 ways this game can go down. This is a game that people don't like. But it's actually not that crazy. It's not that crazy of a game. If you can set it up like this, or I haven't really tried creating worlds on the basis of something other than G, partly because G just feels like such an obvious choice. But if you can see how worlds works for this game, the questions are going to be downhill from here. We don't have time to do them together, but do them on your own. I think if you're still getting used to worlds, it might be hard for you to read this, but as you get more and more comfortable with it, I don't see why you couldn't answer the questions very quickly, because all the answers are right here. There's only 12 possibilities. So anyways, that's that game. Any last questions on this game? Craig, go for it.
Yeah, in one of the later questions, it actually changes the scenario on the rule for generations, saying that it can start either on the hour or on the half hour. That to me seems like we have to totally redefine every single world now. And
wait, you're talking about question 23, right?
I believe so, yes. Yes.
Let's do that one together, because you're actually misreading, I think, that question. It says, which one of the following, if substituted for the constraint that generation starts on the hour rather than the half hour? So it's not asking you to change this rule. It's just asking you, if you got rid of this rule, what rule could you bring into its place that would have the same effect on the game?
Okay, yeah, that does make sense.
Okay. Do you want to do it together? Should we just do it right now?
Please.
So this is a hard question type for a lot of people. So let me just tell you one thing really quick. What we're doing is we're taking one of the rules. We're taking the G is here, here, and here rule. We're getting rid of it, right? We're saying, okay, you're out of here. And we're going to bring in a new rule. And the new rule, I tend to think of this new rule as a new dictator. So we had an old dictator. The old dictator is out. A new dictator is coming in. And this new dictator has to apply the same exact societal constraints that were there before, which means the wrong answers tend to be wrong because the new dictator, the new rule, is either too strict, is confining the game in a way that it wasn't confined before, or the new dictator is too lax. The new dictator is like, do whatever you want. And now things can happen that couldn't happen before. It's an easy way to get rid of wrong answers. So take a look at A, for example. A says G is not shown immediately before T. Could G be immediately before T? No, no, no. Okay, so G can never be immediately before T. So this is not too strict, but I don't think it's strict enough, right? If the rule just says, hey, G is not shown immediately before T, well, I could put, let's see here. What could I do? Okay, so T goes here. Does G have to go here? No, it could go here, right? So it doesn't force G to start on the hour. So answer choice A is not strong enough of a new dictator. Sorry to bring up dictators. I know that's not a fun subject, but that's kind of how I think of these rules. Anyways, B, G is either the first or the fifth. Oh, okay, but it could also be third. So this dictator is way too strict. The new dictator is like, hey, you can only go in first and fifth. Well, that's cute, but G could have been 3 before, so you're too strict, you're out. Answer choice C, G is neither the second or the fourth program. Okay, here, G was first. Here, G was third because it came after 2 programs. Here, G was fifth because it came after 4 programs. So yeah, G is neither second nor fourth. And if that's the only option, then it does seem like G is going to be forced into the first hour, the second hour, or the third hour. So that actually looks like a good replacement. Really quickly, though, let's take a look at the last 2. D, if G is shown third, then R is shown first. Okay, well, this rule, this new dictator in answer choice D, tells me what happens when G is third. Does this rule tell me anything about what happens when G is somewhere else? It's like kind of a useless rule, right? It's not strong enough. It's too limited. It doesn't tell me what happens in other situations. So not good enough. It's out. I bet E is going to have the same problem. If G is not shown first, oh, okay, if G is not shown first, then it is shown later than T. Well, that actually turns out to be true, but it's still not enough, right? Okay, well, does that mean it's going to be on the hour, or could it slip over and be on the half hour? There's nothing preventing it from slipping over 30 minutes, so this is not strong enough and it's out. The answer is C. Okay, I'm sorry we went over. You guys are welcome to leave at any time, but I'll keep taking your questions. Vivian, I'll take you first and Val second. Go for it.
Thank you. I was actually looking at question 19. I was able to get through to the questions. And one thing I didn't get was how Sundance could be the 4th program if T can only go in the 2nd or 4th spot as it being on the half hour. Like, I got it when we were going through the whole, like, all of the worlds, but diagramming just that question alone, I couldn't see how Sundance could be 4th and still have T in if R was 2nd.
Oh, okay, let's take a look. So if R, this is 19, right?
Yes.
Okay, if R is the 2nd program, so which world are we in? We're in this world, not this world, not this world, because R can't be 2nd, right? And not this world, because R can't be 2nd. So I'm only up here, right? Each of the following could be true except. And you're asked, well, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna run down them and see how quickly we can go through this. Each of the following could be true except. So could sundown be 3rd? Sure, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Could sundown be 4th? Okay, 1. We do R here. R is 2nd, right? T is 3rd, and then S is 4th.
Would T going 3rd not make it exactly on the hour?
No, because Yeah, so G is an hour-long program, right? So it takes up 2 slots. Then we have R, and then we have T, and T is still on the half hour.
Okay, it was my diagram. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, Val.
I'm sorry to come back to the setup, but I'm still like, so I tried it quickly on my own, and I'm afraid that I would make the same mistake of putting W in that right before T, thinking that it would be an option. It's not clear to me why I can't do that.
It's not that you can't, you can. W certainly could go immediately before T. It just doesn't have to.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So that's why here I put it as a floater because I'm like, yeah, W can go anywhere.
But in the second scenario below it, it has to go. Okay. All right. It's a definitive. All right.
Yay. Good. Good. Okay. Thank you everyone for coming. Hit that feedback button on the class page. Tell me what you thought, what you hated, what you liked. We'll try to keep that. Any last questions before we rock and roll? Val, another question? Oh, you just had your hand up. Okay, cool. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a good night, good Monday, a good week. Hopefully I'll see some of you Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. If you have a job, I promise you it'll make your job more effective, so hopefully your boss will be cool with that. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.